it's Flo. I'm back again. Just wanted to give a little quick update about my hair. It's been about maybe 3 weeks. Uni! Keep it down! Anyways, I feel like it looks pretty good so far. So, y'all, I recently got these new glasses and I'm just feeling like my view on the world is just so much clearer, you know what I mean? So I thought I'm gonna throw on some business casual stuff and educate the world. So today I'm gonna be doing a 9 things I learned during COVID-19. So I was gonna do 19 things, but that's too many things. And I realized that a lot of this time was spent watching Netflix. So I've learned, but not 19 things. So basically I've kind of compiled a list and I've split it into 3 different sections. So the first section I'm going to talk about my relationship with the world and just kind of the world in general. The second is going to be me talking about my relationship with other people. And then lastly, I'm going to be talking about my relationship with myself. So yeah, I hope you enjoy some of the wisdom that I've gotten during COVID-19 and, the things I've noticed and things that I feel like are just important to share. And you probably experience the same thing. So I just thought I would, point out what's going on with everyone. And yeah, I just thought this would be a really nice culminating summer video. So let's just get started. So the first, like I said, is my relationship to the world. And the first thing I realized is just how little people knew about race in America. I don't know, I'm obviously a Black woman and I don't know, it's just, race has always just been a part of my identity. It's one of my salient identities. And so I just kind of thought that because I know so much about my race, and obviously I have things to learn, but the things that I knew about race, I kind of thought it was more of an intuitive thing, I guess, just because it's something that I have a deep relationship with. But, with everything going on in the world and, seeing just how many people talk about the things that they've learned, or I just find it interesting because I just assumed so many things were common knowledge. So one of the things is like redlining and how that was used to discriminate Black people with getting housing loans. I thought that was something that everyone knew about and that it was just common knowledge, but I was seeing a lot of infographics describing what it is and people being shocked that such a thing could happen, which, okay. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, I was really surprised by that. And I guess with that, this is still under the same category, but it just also made me realize how little race was actually talked about in school. Obviously, we learn about slavery and all of that, but there's other things that have happened and are still happening to us. These little things that have been fine-tuned into us because we experience it. A lot of other people are just unaware of those things. I even took a medical ethics class this summer and I didn't even learn about Tuskegee and, J. Marion Sims from that class. I learned about that on my own, and this is a huge part of our history with healthcare and just health in general because that affects so many things. So I could talk about just this for so long, but yeah, I basically just realized how little people actually knew about how ingrained systemic racism is and how it's everywhere. So it was really interesting to see a lot of people being awoken to that. So the next thing that I learned about the world is just how essential workers are. My mom's a nurse and I know what she does is very important. She tells me about her patients all the time and what sorts of things that she's responsible for. But I think this pandemic has really opened my eyes to the fact that when everything else is shut down, those people still need to go to work. They still need to take care of people. Those are the jobs that still need to get done. And, realizing that and also realizing just how little these workers are paid. For example, like sanitation workers, and janitors in schools and stuff and other buildings, and just how little they're compensated for how important their work is. I was, I wouldn't say I'm surprised at that because capitalism, but it was just surprising just to see that we are aware of that, but nothing is really being done about it. With that, I also realized just how terrible healthcare is. And yes, I am pre-med. I knew that healthcare and health insurance, I knew there was always something off, but like seeing the prices that people pay for just hospital visits and having to take an ambulance, people avoiding taking ambulances because of how expensive they are, it really just made me realize like something is wrong and people shouldn't be choosing whether or not to go bankrupt or be sick. So I really learned so much about how, I guess, just capitalism sucks. That's what I learned. So it really just baffles me how little people's health matters to someone who wants money, to people who manufacture insulin. That's a drug that if you're diabetic, you need that to live every single day. And just knowing how expensive it is and how people just don't care. So now talking about my relationship with others, I just have been reflecting about my friendships, my, companionships, and, social media in general. So the first thing is I learned who my real friends are and who my allies are. So I think before now, and I'm going to talk about this later, but I wasn't super political. So a lot of these conversations were either brushed aside or they just never came up. But I think the pandemic and a lot of things that have been happening during this time have made me realize just like who my real friends are, the people who reached out to me whenever things like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, they reached out to me to check if I was okay. And, a lot of the times I really wasn't. So I really appreciated that, and that kind of just showed me where their heart was and who they care about. And I also realized that there are some people who just don't care. They choose to remain ignorant. They may think that they're doing something and you correct them and they just brush it aside. So I just really learned who really values me and values my friendship enough to really be vocal about the things that might affect me and people who look like me. The next thing about my relationship with others is I learned what kind of doctor/person I really want to be. So I think tying back to like who my real friends are, I think this just shows more generally what relationships I want to culminate with people who might be looking up to me or people who I regard as my equals, because I don't ever want to think of myself as better than anyone just because I become a doctor or anything. But I think COVID has made me realize just how important it is for me to keep in mind that everyone is human and everyone has struggles, and to really listen to people, because shameless plug, the podcast I'm working with, the Summer Natal, they talk about birthing parents' stories and how people just aren't heard. And so I realized that I want to make it a point to be the doctor that listened. I want to be the doctor that heard your concerns and took them into account and, listened to you, and I didn't write you off or think that because of your race you're incompetent in any way. And I want to be that doctor that's on your side, that advocate for the patients. So I think it's really made me solidify that want. And yeah, I think just seeing how often it is that people aren't heard, it made me want to listen even more. I was gonna say listen louder, that makes no sense, but yeah. And the third thing that I learned about, I guess, my relationship with others is that you can always have an impact. So, like I said before, I don't really post anything political because I didn't want to make waves. I pride myself in being the kind of person that brings people together. I don't really like conflict, I guess. I, consider myself a pretty friendly person. And for some reason in my mind, I thought that talking about the things I value didn't equal that, but it does. And I think that I should be even more vocal because of the relationships that I have and my ability to talk with people. I think that, during this time, I've been posting a lot, especially on Instagram, like on Instagram stories, things that I see, things that I find informative, things that I find topical. And I've had people really reach out to me and say like, hey, you've taught me something. You've made me aware of X, Y, and Z that, to me, these are things that maybe I knew or I also learned from the videos or whatever I'm sharing. So it was really reassuring to see that like people were not only watching, but like, actively responding and like knowing that, my decision to speak up and not be scared of the repercussions of telling people what I value, I don't know, just seeing that it ended up with positive experiences and genuinely interesting conversations. I just thought that was super cool. So you can always have an impact, and I think that sharing your values with other people is a good quality and something that you should do if you want those people in your life. And now, my relationship with myself. So, mental health is very important. Take care of yourself. These are not even the things that I've listed, but I just think a general disclaimer that you should take care of yourself. Okay. One of the first thing that I said was I need to be nicer to myself. I feel like it's very easy, especially now, to beat myself up for not being more productive or, not making quarantine like my time where I got my gains. I had to tell myself that it's okay to be not productive sometimes. It's okay to not reach some arbitrary standard that I've set for myself. The next one is avoidance is not the answer. Let me repeat that one for y'all. Avoidance is not the answer. So this has been something that I've always struggled with, I guess is a word for it. Beginning of college, I just avoided emails that could have bad news. I avoided a lot of interactions, even avoiding doing work, procrastination. I think those are all sorts of forms of a little bit of anxiety creeping up, and anxiety of bad things happening or not doing well, or not getting good grades, stuff like that. I think that the feeling of getting things done and knowing that you tackled it head on always trumps the perceived anxieties that you could be having. So I think just something that I learned is just to remind myself that avoidance isn't gonna fix anything, and it's just gonna make things worse the more you avoid it, and then it's gonna be last minute, and then you're gonna realize it was fine to begin with, at least hopefully. And then the last thing that I learned, and I thought this would be a good note to end on, is I learned to appreciate the small things in life. Being away from my friends and a lot of people that I care about, sometimes I be pulling up the Snapchat memories and I see all the fun times that I've had, and I really learned to just appreciate those things. And I wish I took more pictures. Obviously, I went to Paris with my friends. I went to Australia for a time, and that was super fun. Even just being in New York, I've had really super awesome friends and people I really care about. And so I just learned to realize that I should appreciate those little interactions we have, even if it's just, doing homework in the library together or a simple FaceTime call. Those be hitting, man. I love talking to my friends. So I think COVID has made me realize that I just need to appreciate those moments more and appreciate the people I have in my life. My friends, you can't beat them. I think, that's a good place, a good positive place to end. I don't mean to make light of any situation that's going on with quarantine and stuff. I really understand how serious it is. But I will also say that it's allowed me to kind of obviously be at home, but just think about what it is that I really care about, what I value, learn. I don't know what I'm saying, but basically I've had a lot of time to think, and this is what I made of it. I hope you enjoyed this kind of rant, I guess. Educational rant. Let's go with that. Educational rant. Let me know the things that you've learned during COVID or quarantine or whatever, because I know we're all in our heads right now. So I hope you're staying safe. I hope your families are safe. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Peace.